All right, everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Birds Backfield Podcast. My name is Alex, or Phil Eagles only. I'll let the other guys introduce themselves real quick. Go ahead.
Yo, what's up, everyone? It's Matt, otherwise known as your favorite Eagles page, Eagles Everything.
Hi, it's Kieran or Daily Eagles.
What's going on? It's Nick, otherwise known as Eagles Edits 215.
We got a pretty good show for y'all. We're going to do strengths and weaknesses of this Eagles team, bold predictions for the season. We're going to be doing our award predictions, and then we're going to end it off with a record prediction. So if you guys want to start, we can give like our strengths and weaknesses for this team. For me, I really think a big strength of this team is the defensive line.
Both sides of the ball, both lines, every year, it's just
Yeah.
always a strength. I mean, I think this year they added even more depth to it. I mean, you still got guys like Herbig and Driscoll on the O.
Yeah, I agree. That was
Milton Williams, who was,
that was the big
Been a
one that I
stud so
put
far.
down.
He's looked
preseason.
amazing this preseason, by the way.
Our lines have never really been a problem. It's been about keeping them healthy. You know, the offensive line, I think we had, 14 different combinations last year. I mean, we had
this year they're
great
going,
players on there a lot of the time, but,
and
you can't
this
chuck
year they're
it
going
every
in
week.
way.
Right.
You looked at like last year, like week 2, going into like who was week 2 or even week 1. I mean, everyone did not participate in practice.
I mean,
just
week
going
6
a lot
we
more
had Jamon
healthier.
Brown starting.
I mean, Brandon Brooks was
You know
out
what I
by
mean?
June, so even
Yeah.
right off the bat, they didn't have everybody to
Dillard
start
as well.
with.
And Lane Johnson's injury too. Whereas like ankle basically collapsed. Isn't that what he said?
He
I
said
believe
that, didn't he?
that was during the Giants Thursday game, correct? Right?
I
or
think
was
he
that
missed
earlier?
time before that, didn't he? Because
Yeah,
he
I
went
believe
out,
so,
I
yeah.
remember,
He was playing
49ers
like, on
game.
and off. Yeah. I know he didn't play week 1. I think he played week 2. And then he might have gotten hurt week 3. I don't remember. But the point of what we're saying is that the offensive line, when healthy, is 100% a strength. Same to go with the defensive line. So I think another strength that we have is our running back core. Even though like it's not like the flashiest position ever, it's definitely not like a weakness. And I think Miles Sanders is a really good explosive runner. Like he's not a guy he's not a guy like Ezekiel Elliott who will get like 2 or 3 yards consistently, but he's a guy that when he hits the hole, he's a guy. I'm saying he's a guy. I sound like Chris Collinsworth.
He's more of a Saquon than he is a Derrick Henry or a Zeke.
Right, that makes sense. And then I also like the depth that we have. Even Jordan Howard, when he eventually comes back up, I think he's looked solid this preseason and in training camp as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
Kenneth
was
Gainwell as well.
surprised they left Howard on the practice squad because
That
they
was a
have
huge shocker to me.
just
that he
Scott and
didn't make it.
Gainwell as 2 and 3, who are
Yeah.
both like 5'8", 5'9". So Sanders will definitely be getting all the goal line work, that's for sure.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to protect
are
him
we sure
surely
about
a lot
that
of the
though?
weeks.
Because even though that Boston Scott isn't necessarily like the tallest guy in the world, he's really bulky and he's had success in the goal line at the past.
He actually
in the
has.
past. So I mean, I feel like that we could use him in those situations.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
also
they'll be really
dependent
good.
on how.
Even though Sanders.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say it's also dependent on how the O line steps up with the run blocking at the goal line. Because if they're creating the gaps, it doesn't matter who's behind them.
Yeah, I
And I was
agree with
gonna
that 100%.
I was gonna say I think Sanders too. When you bring in Scott and Gainwell, it's like Sanders had. I think ESP had him as like 8 drops in camp and stuff. So like he's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna be on the field really at all. Like 3rd and 5 and more.
Yeah.
Gainwell and Scott are
like,
gonna steal
obvious
a ton of those 3rd downs.
Right. On obvious passing downs, I think you're going to see Sanders subbed out a lot because you can't trust him in those situations where he has to catch the ball or where he's going out on a route. But as a whole, I think that the running back group is definitely a strength. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Sirianni uses this committee of running backs because he's had success with that position in the past. Just using them like he did Naheem Hines, for example, rotating him in and out with Jonathan Taylor and Marlon Mack. So I'm excited to see how we use that.
Yeah, it's really just dependent on if Miles returns to form or not. Because if he still struggles in the passing game and he's not the 3-down back that they need him to be, then the running back core isn't really going to boom like it should. So it's really just dependent on him.
Yeah,
Also,
something that
100%.
fans.
a new running back coach this year, isn't it?
Yeah,
Jamal
yeah.
Singleton.
no more
Oh
Deuce.
yeah, Jamal Singleton. And this is our first year without Deuce Staley too, so we have to see how he develops these running backs for sure.
I think something that fans.
So I'm gonna move over to what were we saying?
I was gonna say I think something that Sanders for a long time is, how many times did he get like 10 carries last year, 10 to 12 carries? Everyone's like, give him 20. I think he's definitely going to be seeing 15 to 20 with Sirianni coming in.
I would
Yeah.
agree with that. Yeah, he should
All right,
get
so
the
moving
Jonathan
on
Taylor
to
treatment.
sorry.
No, sorry,
Go
my
ahead.
bad. I was just saying he should
Okay.
get the. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna move on to our weaknesses, which I think that definitely a big weakness, in my opinion, right now is the quarterback position. That's not to say that Jalen can't be a strength or even not a weakness this season, but for right now, I do think that he is a little bit of a weakness. If y'all want to elaborate on that.
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't want to say it because obviously I'm not well known as a
Yeah.
Jalen lover, but but I mean, he's not very proven. He played 4 games and they were subpar at best, in my opinion. So to say that it's anything more than at least somewhat of a weakness I think it's just lying. Like he's just not proven, in my opinion. And I mean, he could change that, but right now it's probably the weakest part of the offense, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
It's going to come down to being consistent. I think his whole career. I think Atlanta week 1, who's putrid defensively. I think we'll find out pretty early. In the passing game.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like in Jalen's defense last year, Doug Peterson was a disaster calling plays. I mean, there were a lot of just horrible route combinations that he would call up. And maybe that's a result of not having an offensive coordinator. But I feel like there are some situations last year where there's a guy wide open and Jalen just missed him. But I think that he can only get better from here.
He was really good though, right? Or quite good against the Saints and then the Cardinals the first 2 weeks. And then teams got film on him and worked him out, or seemingly worked him out. I know obviously the O-line didn't help or anything, but
he's going to have the benefit now of having a whole offseason to prepare. And
That's
a new
true.
head coach, obviously.
New head coach, yeah. And it sounds like Sirianni's really good at getting, helping the quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely got a pedigree of making a struggling quarterback successful. Like, for example, Phillip Rivers when he won Comeback Player of the Year, and then Phillip Rivers last year when he was a disaster with the Chargers, but came back and had a solid season last year. So I think that Sirianni is a proven quarterback developer, and I'm excited to see what Jalen does under him for sure. If you guys want to move on to another weakness that we have, I think everyone has something to say about this. It's the linebacking core.
Does somebody want to go first on that, or do you want me to take it?
I'll go first. So,
Okay.
My biggest issue with the linebacking core is personally TJ Edwards. I think he's a great tackler, but he is sort of a liability in coverage, especially on passing downs. Obviously. But yeah, that's like the big one. Eric Wilson, who we recently signed this offseason, isn't necessarily like the best tackler in the world. So that's sort of what I mean. He's great in pass coverage, obviously. And then Alex Singleton I think is like a mixture of both, where he's not like an elite coverage guy, but he's solid, and he's also a pretty good tackler as well. But I'm not ready to call the Eagles linebacking core a strength or not a weakness yet.
Yeah, I think it's a step above a weakness. I think it's unproven. I think there's a lot of young dudes who have potential, like Taylor, and obviously Singleton can take more steps, but I think he's kind of the most reliable dude there right now, aside from Wilson maybe. But then it's like you have Jannard Avery. He's still listed as a linebacker. What are you doing with him? Because he's been that way for going on 3 years now. So what's the deal with him?
Yeah, that point about Jannard Avery.
Go ahead, Inga.
I think they're going to use Jannard Avery in a bunch of different ways. I think that they're going to line him up at linebacker in certain positions and then just blitz him. because he's definitely a lot better pass rusher, at least in my opinion, than he is a linebacker.
Yeah, he's
But I
probably
mean,
his best as a stand-up linebacker or a stand-up
that's a
pass
good
rusher.
way. Right, that's a good way to explain it. I think I was listening to the Inside the Birds podcast with Adam Kaplan and Jeff Mosher, and Adam was talking about how they're going to use Kerrigan in a way where he is like a stand-up defensive lineman. But I think that you're going to be seeing a lot of that with Jannard Avery as well.
Yeah, I think if you look at their starters, being probably Singleton, Wilson, but still be probably playing a lot of nickel. I think you look at them, it's tough to call it a weakness, but like if one of them were to go down, it's just, I mean, they don't have a ton of unproven. I mean, you have TJ Edwards, he's played a little bit, but and then you got Davion Taylor, John Avery,
Sean Bradley.
They have a ton of unproven. So that's just an area they really got to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they have depth.
Totally
it's just
agree.
undeveloped.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys want to move on to our bold predictions for this upcoming season, if Matt, you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. So what I'm going with for number one is might not surprise some people on this pod, but I'm going Zach Ertz has more yards than Jalen Reagor this year. I just think he's going to get way more targets than people think. Like some people think he's just totally taking out of the offense, which I just totally disagree with. It's more of a something where I'm going more for a surprise for Ertz and a disappointment for Reagor. I think a lot of people are, a lot really down on Ertz just after a injury riddled year. So I think he comes back with around 600 to 700 yards and probably Reagor closer to a 500 or so.
Yeah, I can totally see where you're coming from. And also, Zach Ertz isn't really a guy who I think is athletic enough, or he's not going to lose as much as much athleticism as he gets older, because he's never really been that athletic guy. He's always been super crafty. So I feel like you're onto something there for sure.
Yeah. To piggyback off that point about Ertz with the athleticism thing, there was a time when people were like, "Oh, we should trade him for Julio." You get the wide receiver one for Carson at the time, and I was thinking, because people were saying he's almost 30, he's going to fall off a cliff athletically, but that's never been his game. He always reminded me more of a Witten than a Kelsey, because Witten's game was always, I can out route run you and I can get open no matter what, even at like 37 years old. And I feel like that's what Ertz has always been, because even though last year, like, he was getting open most of the time, he wasn't good. Like, bottom line, he wasn't good. So I feel like his game is more of route running and, the reliable hands than being an athletic monster like a Waller.
Yeah. And last year, if you were ranking tight ends, you probably had Ertz top 3 going into 2020. So, I mean, I think he's not going to nearly play up to that, but I think a lot of people are just forgetting what type of player he used to be, and it's only a year removed.
Yeah, like if he finished a top 10 tight end, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, I totally agree with that about Ertz being a top 10 tight end. Also, I just want to say that even though Zach did have a down year last year, I think everybody can agree with that. I think that there were some issues mentally going on with him. In his recent press conference, he was talking about how much pressure was going on with what seemed like a competition between him and Dallas Goedert all the time. And this year, just the vibe I got from him at that press conference was there's like a new sense of fresh air, and he seems a lot more mentally right than he was last year.
Ready to go.
And I think that's going to, I think that's going to be a huge plus for him for sure. And I definitely think he's due for a bounce back season.
Yeah, you see, last year I feel like going in, you could almost argue he had his job on the line because Goddard was really on the rise. Now I feel like he's got nothing to lose because he already hit an all-time low. So now he's just got to bounce back and play better. And if he doesn't, people already thought he stunk. He'll go somewhere else. But I feel like now he's got nothing to lose, really. That's just my opinion.
All right, so we just got through Matt's bold prediction about Zach Ertz and Jalen Reagor. Daly, if you want to go and give your bold prediction, go ahead.
To be honest, is kind of following on from Matt's. I think Zach Ertz will have more yards than Dallas Goedert this year. Last year, I mean, when Hurts came in, he was obviously Wentz's favorite weapon for years. But when Hurts came in, he targeted Ertz more than anyone. And they had the lowest completion percentage of any player, but the targets were there. Eventually, it's going to click, and they apparently, or supposedly, as the reporters were saying, connected really well in training camp. And I know Ertz had a drop in the first preseason game, but he got open for Hurts there, so I think he might get more yards than Goda. Obviously, less after the catch, but more catches, more yards, I think.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. I don't know if I'd go that far to rank him over Goddard, but I do like the bounce back Zach Ertz prediction, and especially for a young quarterback as well. A safety blanket like Zach Ertz is just so important. Like you saw it in Carson Wentz's rookie season, where he was just targeting Zach Ertz nonstop. And I think for a young quarterback, it's so important to have somebody like that who's just consistently open and so reliable. So yeah, I totally agree with the both of you. Nick, if you want to go, and then I'll give my bold prediction after.
Okay. Yeah, so I also wrote down Ertz, but I'm going to change it up. I'll do a different one that I also have. But for the record, I also did put, similar to Daly, that Ertz would have a shot, or at least he would take over the TE1 rule. So I think that is something that could happen. But I'm going to also say that Anthony Harris, who I think's kind of gone under the radar as a signing for the Eagles, at least league-wide, because I feel like it's not getting recognition. He's going to have – he might not make the Pro Bowl, but he'll have a Pro Bowl level year. I just think I think he had a little bit of a struggle in 2020 in Minnesota, so I think he's going to return to form somewhat. And I think you could probably argue he'll be a better player in the secondary than Slay by the end of the year. So I think Harris is going to be a good signing for the Eagles, and he's going to deliver and probably carry that secondary.
One really important note about Anthony Harris is that he's reunited with Jonathan Gannon, who was with him in Minnesota. So I think that's a good point for sure. I'm excited because we got the guy for $5 million. And even in the preseason, he was laying out some crazy hits and doing well in coverage. So I like that as well. And we haven't really had a guy like Anthony Harris who's really a guy who's over the top a lot of the time. Malcolm Jenkins was a guy you could play all over the place. He was Swiss Army knife, but Harris is more of that over the top guy. So I think that's a pretty good prediction. I definitely like that as well. I'm going to stick
really
to.
Easily. I make one more point on that.
Yeah,
I think he could really easily, by the end of the year, be seen as maybe besides Devontae as the clear-cut best addition by the Eagles.
Yeah,
this offseason.
Definitely.
I mean, just a couple of years ago, he led the league in interceptions, didn't he? And then some of the contract numbers they're talking about were crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Devontae is the highest ceiling addition, but you could probably argue he's the best immediate addition that'll help the team right now.
Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it. I'll go ahead and I'll give my bold prediction. A guy who I've always been higher on than most Eagles fans is Avonte Maddox. And I think that now he's going back into the slot role where he's most comfortable and not having to take on bigger, more physical receivers. I think that he's due for a really good season this year. I'm not going to say that he's going to be a Pro Bowler or anything like elite, but I do think he is going to be not the Avonte Maddox we've seen in past. And I think that he's going to be a really solid nickel corner for us for the foreseeable future. So maybe like a step below Pro Bowler.
I agree with you on that one, to be honest. I've always quite liked Maddox, and he's just always been. I feel like he's always been in the wrong position, but obviously that's not really his fault. You have to do what you're told. So yeah, I mean, if I'm right, is it his last year of contract this year as well?
Yeah, this is a contract year for him.
Yeah, so
same year with Goddard was drafted.
So yeah, that probably helps even more than to motivate him. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yep. So now we're gonna move on to our team awards. So if y'all want to give like your MVP, your offensive rookie of the year, your defensive rookie of the year, etc. If somebody wants to go.
Want to go, Nick?
Alex, if you want to go first, you can. I just want to.
All right. Yeah, I'll go first. So for my offensive, I'll end off with MVP. My offensive player of the year, I think, is going to go to Miles Sanders. Even though I'm not a big Miles Sanders guy, I think that Nick Sirianni is going to use him in really efficient ways. And I do like him going or running behind a really healthy offensive line for the first time since 2019. So that's my prediction for Offensive Player of the Year. For Offensive Rookie of the Year, I think that this is everybody's choice. It's going to be Devontae Smith. If he can stay healthy, he's got potential to be the best receiver in this draft class, in my opinion. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, there weren't many options, but I'm going to say Zach McPherson because I don't really see Milton Williams getting that much play time. He's a really raw player, and so I think that he's going to be seeing a lot of time on the practice field. But I do really like him for the future. But for now, I'm going to go with Zach McPherson. Player of the Year, I think Darius Slay is due for a bounce back season. And now he's in a system where he's a lot more supported, whereas being on an island all the time in the Jim Schwartz man-to-man scheme. So I like that for him. And then for MVP, I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts personally. I know like the term MVP is used loosely, but I do think that he's going to be the most valuable player for the Eagles team this year. I do have some expectations for him.
All right,
Okay.
So it's yeah.
So I'll start with Offensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go Devontae. I just think it's really what it comes down to is he's going to be seeing the most targets. He's going to get the most volume. And I think if he averages about 70 yards per game, he's going to be near 1,200 yards on the season. So I think it'll be pretty easy for him to go be the best player on the Eagles offense. A lot of it just comes down to Hurts being consistent through the air. Obviously, he'll be my Offensive Rookie of the Year. For Defensive Rookie of the Year, again, it's like you're deciding between McPherson and Milton. But I think I'll probably go Williams, unless there's some injuries at corner, which I'm sure there will be. But I think it'll be Williams. He'll be seeing a lot of time on rotations, and like when you're playing next to Cox and Hargrave and Graham, I think he'll definitely be getting a lot of one-on-ones. Could rack up 4 to 5 sacks his rookie year. And then I have the same. If I was going MVP, I'd end Defensive Player of the Year. I'd give it to Cox, but I'll go with a different Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to go Hargrave for this. He's had a great camp, great preseason. He's definitely a guy I think he's going to have a better season than anyone he had in Pittsburgh and definitely have a better year than he did last year. He had a slow start, was really getting going late last season. So he'll be my Defensive Player of the Year. And then, like I said, MVP, still Fletcher Cox. There's not too many great options for MVP just because you don't really know what you're getting at quarterback. But I think Cox is, still in his prime, still racking up, 8 to 10 sacks per year, still great in the run game. So I'm going with him as my MVP.
Okay, Daly, Kieran, do you want to go up next or?
Yeah, sure. So Offensive Player of the Year, I'm going to go Zach Ertz. I think he'll bounce back, that much that he'll be our best offensive player. And then Offensive Rookie of the Year, probably Devontae Smith. I think, maybe Gainwell makes a case for it, but I can't see anyone else but Smith winning that. Defensive Rookie of the Year, again, you only really have 2 options. I'll probably go like Milton Williams, I suppose. I mean, it could be either of them. Defensive Player of the Year, I think I'll give that one to Anthony Harris. I think he'll be really, really good. And I hope we re-sign him if he is. And then the total MVP, I think it's going to be tough, but might be a bit of a boring choice, but why not Jason Kelce? He won last year. He'll go through everything again for the team. And I'm assuming it's going to be his last season, so I just hope it's a good one.
It's not the safest pick you can go, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. If I was thinking about Jason Kelce, I probably would have taken him too. Lastly, Nick, if you want to say your award predictions.
Yeah, so as far as Offensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year, I'm just going to keep it both as Smith because I don't think there's anybody with the ceiling he has so long as there's competent quarterback play. So I would say if he can get 1,000 yards, that's pretty good for anybody that's an Eagles receiver in the last 5.5, 6 years. So I would say he's probably going to take that. As far as defensive player of the year, I like the Hargrave pick that Matt made. I'm also going to side with that one. It's the same reasons as Camp's been really good. And I think he's just, with guys like Sweat stepping up and Barnett and Graham, I just think he's in a really good position to kind of eat and really take on. Like, he's not going to take double teams. That's going to be Cox and maybe Graham. So I think at the end of the day, if he's one-on-one, he's going to really eat in the middle of the line. As far as defensive rookie of the year, I don't really feel like there's an option. Like, obviously it's Milton or Zach, but I feel like you're kind of just picking one to pick one because I don't think either of them are going to get the snaps that warrant that title. But if I had to pick one, I would go Milton. Similar to Hargrave, the D-line is just a better situation for him to play well than the secondary is for Zach, and I think there's more opportunity there, even if he's lower on the depth chart, for him to actually make plays. Real quick, it's not an official award, but I think like surprise or breakout player of the year, I think Barnett's finally going to like actually step up and be the player that people thought he was coming out of the draft. I think he may not be as good as Josh Sweat because he is getting all the attention, Josh Sweat, but I think Barnett's going a little bit under the radar. And if he came out and had like 8.5 sacks this year, I would not be shocked. And then as far as MVP, I'm probably going to keep it the same as Daly with Kelsey because I think he's probably the most important player on that line because if he's there to glue it together and hold it down, I think that the line, at least as a unit, will run smooth. So I would say Kelsey's the MVP of the team.
All right, sounds good. So now the best part of the show where everybody gets annihilated by all the listeners.
Yeah.
So let's do our record predictions. I'll start first. So the first half of the season is absolutely brutal for the Eagles. Let's go over that. They start off in Atlanta. Then they have the 2019 NFC champion, San Francisco 49ers. Then they go to Dallas. Then they go to Kansas City. Then they go to Carolina, I believe. Then it's Tampa Bay. And then it's the Raiders. And then I think it's either the Broncos or the Chargers after that.
It's the Lions, and then it's the Chargers.
Oh, the Lions. Oh, dang. Okay. But that first half of the season is tough, man. So I do think as a whole, this is going to be a successful season. But we don't have to have a good record in order for it to be a successful season. So I'm going to go with 6-11, but I do think that we're going to see things from the Eagles, like an improved coaching staff, that gives you optimism for the future. So I'm going to say an optimistic 6-11.
Okay, I'll go next, I guess. I'm not high on the team at all this season. I would think 5 wins, 6 wins is like where they kind of cap out. As far as the first half of the season, I mean, it's absolutely brutal. They could probably pull out Atlanta because their defense is pretty bad, and I don't think, I mean, all around they're not a great team. And they have a rookie head coach, not that we don't as well, but maybe they pull out Atlanta, and then I don't see them winning again until maybe Detroit in October on Halloween. So like 5 wins, maybe 5-12. They could do a little late season push because it's Washington, Giants, Washington, Dallas. So maybe they could do a little bit of a late season kind of win run, but 5-12 is really where I'm at.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm also gonna go with about 6 is where I'm at, 6-11. A lot of people seem to think that like we have like the easiest schedule, like going on last year's records. But I mean, if you look through it, every team that was bad last year has improved, except really Detroit. So I mean, yeah, and as I said, the first 6 weeks are brutal. I do think they'll win. But yeah, that should be the next second win is probably going to come sometime in late October. But yeah, I'm going 6-11.
To be honest, I think they've got 8 really winnable games because you've got the Falcons. I think the Panthers is a winnable game. The Raiders, I think they're rubbish if I'm honest. The Lions, yeah, everyone knows they're bad. The Broncos are definitely winnable, and then you've got the Jets, and then divisional games. I'm sure you could pick up a win or 2 out of them. That's really 8 winnable games. Will they win 8? Probably not. I think the problem with the Panthers game is we have 4 games in 16 days or something, and that's one of them. So if we manage to get a win there, I think we can top at 8. But I think 6 is a fair guess as well.
So it sounds that not everybody is too optimistic for the season. But that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Birds Backfield Podcast. Make sure to check all of us out on Instagram if you aren't following us. My Instagram is Phil Eagles Only. There's Daily Eagles. There's Eagles _ everything. And then there's Eagles Edits 215. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up. Appreciate y'all for listening. We expect to do more in the future, more of these podcasts. We're going to be doing a game preview on the Atlanta Falcons very soon. So yeah, make sure to check out all of our Instagrams and stay tuned for what's coming in the future.